My teen female dad, 36, married his wife Becca, 42, 2 years ago. She has 3 kids, teen female twins and a male tween, and I've known them for 5 years now. I don't get along with them apart from my stepbrother. For clarification, my mom is not in the picture anymore and neither is their dad. My dad just received my grandparents' house. Granny passed away and we're planning to move there. It has the same number of rooms, 4, but it has an oversized yard and a basement, and my dad says we can get a pool in a few years. I used to spend weekends with my grandparents, and so I already have a room there, my dad's old room. My grandparents renovated it so I could have my own bathroom and a bigger closet there. So when my dad said we were moving, he said I had to get rid of half of my furniture because I already have stuff there. I'll admit my room there is nicer than the one I have here because I was my grandparents' only grandchild and they kept it modern. It seemed obvious that I was going to keep my room there. Becca didn't say anything at that time because she didn't know the room had a full bath and a walk-in closet. They visited the house last week to start moving some stuff while my step-siblings and I were at school, and at night during dinner, Becca said that I would have to choose some other room because the girls should get the one I use. Both my dad and I were confused, and she said it was better and the most practical thing, since the twins were 2 and they needed a bigger closet, and it would be better for them to have their own bathroom. I said sorry, but no, because my grandparents did all those modifications for me, and that has been my room for as long as I can remember. She and the girls wanted to push the subject, but my dad didn't let them and told my stepmom that they were going to talk later. My dad shut the thought down because the twins had been sulking, and my stepmom asked me to give it a thought because it wasn't fair for my sisters. The twins straight out called me an idiot, and my friend said I should give up the room because it's true that they need the space more. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It really doesn't matter what the twins want. The room has been yours for years. When your stepmother's parent passes and leaves them a house, they can keep the room they have at that house. As for them being salty about not getting it, tough noogies. I'm glad your dad stood up for you. That's the key thing for me. If they were all moving into a house that was new to them all, it'd make logical sense for the twins to have the bigger room. But that's not the case here. The house is already part of OP's life, and she already has her space there. Given the connection with the late grandparents, it would be unspeakably cruel to take that away against OP's will. You are the idiot. This room you had at your grandparents', is it the biggest non-master room? I.e., are you expecting a larger room than the twins will share? That's not reasonable. People sharing a room should have a larger room versus someone in a room alone. The room in your grandparents' house isn't your room. It belonged to your grandparents and now it belongs to your dad. This is more practical because you aren't going to be staying there longer than them. Suck it up and be an adult about it. The twins shared the same crowded womb for 9 months. They can share a smaller room. Why should OP be pushed out of her own room for her children? It's BS because I don't see how giving up your room would be better for OP. Hun, your stepmother was pretty much writing you off as unimportant, or else she would have acknowledged this would be a sacrifice for you. I hate to be the one to say this, but I'd talk to your dad if I were you and make sure he has a will that leaves the house to you. This has Cinderella vibes all over it. He should also get a post-nup stating that the stepmother has no ownership rights to the house in the event of his death. Property that was inherited from his parents, in theory, isn't marital property. But given that she and her kids would have also lived there, she could argue that it became marital property and claim it by contesting the will. Hopefully your dad is around for a long time, but things happen. My husband, 28, and I, 27 female, have been together for 5 years. We met online through a video game and then dated long distance for 3 years until I moved to live with him. I'm disabled and use a wheelchair, while my husband is completely non-disabled. He's known this since the first time we spoke, and it's never been a problem in our relationship. I currently don't work as I'm still finishing my master's, and we're both aware that in the future, I still might not be able to work full-time or even at all due to my health issues. I do what I can when it comes to household chores, but obviously I can't do all of it. We're very happy with this arrangement. Nancy, 25 female, is a neighbour. She was my first friend here and really helped me feel more at home in a foreign country. We sometimes talk about how amazing my husband is as a partner, and she knows the details of my medical diagnosis. But there have never been any red flags regarding her talking about my disability. Since I've known her, she's been in a string of bad relationships, which I always comforted her through because I know dating nowadays can be emotionally taxing. 2 days ago, my husband and I were late for an outing with Nancy and mutual friends. and someone made a joke about us having intimacy being the reason we're late, as it's uncharacteristic for us not to be on time. Everyone laughed, and then Nancy said that couldn't be true because how would we even have intimacy considering I'm disabled? There was an awkward silence before my husband said that the details of our intimate life were none of her concern. She looked embarrassed, so we all moved on. Nancy drank a lot throughout the night and ended up cornering me in the bathroom and badgering me about details on how I have intimacy. I was uncomfortable and told her so, and then she huffed and said it's ridiculous how someone like me ever managed to get with someone like my husband, who is handsome and treats me like a queen, while she, who is normal, can't find a man who wants to commit. She also suggested I couldn't fulfill my husband's needs and that he must feel trapped and unsatisfied in our relationship. This made me angry, so I told her it's not my fault she's still single and that maybe her horrible personality pushes men away and that no amount of being normal can fix that. My husband and I went home after that and haven't spoken to her since. She's since shared the story with all of our mutual friends. While my husband and the majority of friends are on my side, 2 women in our group say that it wasn't very feminist of me to attach a woman's value to keeping a man and that I knew it was a sore spot for Nancy. Am I the idiot for telling her what I did? Not the idiot, and she probably needed the vibe check badly. What she said even before being drunk was unjustifiable. Also, the 2 other friends that disagree with you sound like the parodies of feminists that misogynists come up with. Ridiculous and unhinged. Attaching a woman's value to her relationships? Sorry, but this isn't what she did when questioning your abilities to satisfy your partner. Disgusting. Sounds like the neighbour has the hots for OP's husband, and she needed more than a vibe check. The neighbour needed a kick in the butt. We have no idea what OP's relationship with their husband is, and neither does their neighbour, and we have no business knowing. Whatever their relationship, it's clearly satisfying since they seem very happy and secure. There is ableism, anti-feminism, so much happening here, my head is spinning. What does being a feminist have to do with the fact that she cornered you over some BS? The 2 disagreeing with how you handled it are idiots, as well as Nancy. She is a jealous and miserable idiot. I'm sorry a friend turned out to be such an ableist, intrusive moron. You don't need someone like that in your life. Instead, focus on the good friends and your amazing partner. I like most of my neighbours, but not the ones next door. They have a 4-car driveway and a 2-car garage, but always have their guests park in my yard for some reason. We live in a semi-rural, semi-suburban neighbourhood. There's no street parking. If you want to park on the street, you have to be about 75% in someone's yard. Last week, they had contractors over who drove through my yard to access their backyard, leaving deep, muddy tyre tracks still indented across my yard. This weekend, they had a birthday party for their kid's birthday. They put a bounce house up against my fence. They don't have one, despite their backyard being half an acre. My dogs didn't have it, so I brought them inside. Unfortunately, my kitchen window looks into their backyard, and my dogs wouldn't stop barking because they were right next to our fence, even after I brought them inside. I gave up after a while and tuned them out. At least with them barking inside, most of my neighbours won't be able to hear them, minus the birthday party next door. The mother from next door came over to yell at me. Apparently, a bunch of the kids wouldn't use the bounce house because of my dog, and one kid who's afraid of dogs wouldn't stop crying. I said I brought my dog inside so she wouldn't be so loud, and that they should move the bounce house to a spot that isn't in front of my kitchen window if they wanted my dog to stop. She demanded I put my dog in a cage or lock her in a room where she couldn't see them. I told her to screw off and get her guests out of my yard. She called me a witch and said she called the police for my dog being a public nuisance if I didn't control her, and said that they'd moved their cars when the party was over. I closed the door and called a tow company, and they towed 3 cars before anyone noticed. They returned for the last 2 and got moved before they could take them. I told my friends about what happened and they're split. In our area, it's pretty common courtesy not to park on private property without asking the owner. Some think I should have stormed into their backyard and told everyone to move or get towed, but I don't want to go onto their property. They're the only ones who seem to think it's okay. Whenever I throw parties or have family over, I always have people park in my driveway or yard. Am I the idiot for having my neighbour's guests towed? They had 5 cars on your property, and they came onto your property to tell you to lock up your dogs further? Not the idiot, and hopefully they learn their lesson. But please be wary of your dog. Check your yard for poisoned food and document all interactions with this neighbour. They may retaliate. They sound spiteful and out of touch. Cameras covering the whole yard are required here too. You gave plenty of warning. If a cop got called out, I don't think you'd get any grief over the dog making noise with a big party right next door being thrown by the caller of the noise complaint. Given that she threatened to call the police on you, it's actually kind of hilarious that you called the tow company on her. Someone parked in my driveway once, and there were no spots on the street. They left their window open, so I honked their horn to get their attention. The owner popped his head out but had the nerve to refuse to move the truck. Me being me, I opened the door, put the truck in neutral, and let it roll down my hill of a driveway. He was watching and yelling. I left it in the middle of the street, parked my car, and went into the house before he got to his car. No guilt. Your space is your space. My husband, 38 male, and I have 2 kids, male and female teens. Our son is autistic and gay, a very feminine boy. Up until a few months ago, all of his friends were girls. Then, a few months ago, he started hanging out with a group of athletic boys, which my husband and I initially found odd. Then, about a month into this, he told us one of the guys was his boyfriend. The boys who he was hanging out with were extremely close to his boyfriend. He said his boyfriend's friends were very sweet to him, asked him questions about jewelry and makeup, and were amazing. In the past few months, they've been coming to our house with their friend, and they definitely are lovely. They share some common interests like anatomy and physiology. The boys like it because of sports, and my son is just a science nerd. My son also loves collecting stuffed animals. We see nothing wrong with this. One of my son's new friends collects plushes of baseball, football, etc. players. The boys recently came over for a sleepover. The one boy brought over his baseball and football player plushes, and he and the other boys started playing with them, as well as with my son's stuffed animals. I had to leave the door open. Son is still with his boyfriend after all. When my daughter walked by his room, she started to make fun of him and his friends and said it was embarrassing that her twin brother played with stuffed animals as a freshman in high school. The boys ignored her, but she then started making sounds imitating a baby and a toddler. When I heard those sounds, I went upstairs to see what was going on as she was being pretty loud. I saw she was mocking the boys. I immediately made her go to her room and apologized to the boys for her behavior. I planned on talking to her after I made dinner. However, as I was cooking dinner, I got a text from my brother saying that his son, my nephew, saw my daughter recording the boys and making fun of them on her Instagram story. After this, I was worried for the safety of the boys. I didn't want to hurt their feelings. Even more, they weren't doing anything wrong. So I called up my sister and told her I needed her to take my daughter for the night. My daughter knows her aunt well and has a good relationship with her. My sister is a teacher, so I thought she could give my daughter a good perspective on bullying. I went into her room to tell her that her aunt was picking her up, and she started screaming at me. She eventually agreed to go after I threatened to take away her phone. The next day I got a call from my mom asking why I abandoned my daughter and how it's natural for her to be embarrassed by her brother playing with plushies at that age. She also said it could be traumatizing for her to sleep there instead of with me. My sister keeps reassuring me I did the right thing. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Maybe Grandma is behind the times and is part of the girls play with dolls and guys with toy cars, and swapping and sharing is against the rules kind of era. But you don't need to listen to her because this opinion is outdated. Do your kids normally have issues with each other? Could your daughter have a crush on one of the boys or something and is acting out for attention? In any case, as you're aware, the daughter's behavior was unacceptable and needed to be nipped in the bud. Publicly humiliating them by posting videos online without their permission is not okay. It isn't like you kicked her out the house and told her to figure things out herself. She went to stay with a family member she knew and trusted. But you need to have some serious conversations with your daughter about how just because she has an opinion doesn't make it right, and how shaming people on the internet to get her attention isn't okay. Perhaps some therapy might help her. Don't be mad, but show her action and consequences. You are the idiot. Your daughter obviously is wrong for bullying her own brother and friends, but she's just a kid. You're wrong for not talking with your daughter, not punishing her and shipping her away. She's your daughter and your responsibility, not your sister's. This literally doesn't solve anything or work to change your daughter's behavior. You can toss a bully out if they don't live there, but since she does, you should probably try to, parent your child. You need to step up. My friend didn't have a necklace to go with her dress, so I offered her one of mine. She kept telling me how much she loved the necklace, so I told her she could keep it as I never wear it anyway. I gave her the necklace 4 months ago, but she recently wore it to another party, and my sister-in-law mentioned that I had a necklace that looked exactly like that. So my friend told her that I'd given it to her, and my sister-in-law made a comment about how that was nice of me. I thought that was the end of it, but she told all of my in-laws and my husband. So now my husband is demanding I get the necklace back, and everybody is angry at me, and I don't understand what the big deal is. I've told him I can't ask for the necklace back since my friend clearly loves it so much, but he said I have a week to get it back, or he would get it back himself, and that he would think twice before giving me anything from now on. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Your husband bought that for you, not your friend. I understand that you don't like it, but that is something he used his money for in an attempt to get you something you like. I'd be hurt if my fiancé were to do something similar. At the very least, you should have talked to him about giving it away before you gave it away. Finding out from his sister was probably embarrassing, and the worst way to find out. Not the idiot. Once given, the gift belongs to you and you can do what you want with it, so why keep something you will never wear? For people saying the opposite, how is it a gift if the husband holds it over her head or threatens the friend with taking it back? And if the husband chose a gift she wouldn't even wear, it wasn't a gift chosen in love. He didn't consider her taste. Using gifts as an emotional manipulation isn't a sign of love. You can do anything with a gift once it's yours. It's nowhere near that simple when gifts from your partner are gifts. You are the idiot, even if you say this was not a family heirloom. It must be important if sister-in-law recognized it right away. It was something precious to him that he gave to you, and probably pretty expensive. Handing it off to your friend without at least giving him a heads up beforehand, 4 months, and it's clear you had zero intention of telling him, because your friend did, was insensitive.